I am super excited. And I always start out like that. And people might not believe that I really am excited every time I see that, but say that. But I am. I'm excited today. Every time I say that, I'm excited for different reasons. But today I'm excited because we have Dr. Liz Opoka. Practiced that before we went live. I have her on the line, PT, DPT, doctor of physical therapy, and former radio DJ. And I thought when I found out that fun fact at one of our what were we at? One of our club mixers, and we just get to know one another and to think like we are people working in a profession, and we have had many hats and titles and things in our lives besides our one in healthcare. So when I found that out and I saw you reach out in the group to help one of our members who was struggling with really speaking up in meetings. And we know that that is so important when it comes to being visible in our business and really speaking up and saying, I can help you. I thought we have to talk because I think you know more about using your voice and speaking up than anybody. And so welcome, Dr. Liz Opoka. I'm so Opoka.
Yes,
so
you got it.
To have you here, and I'm excited to get into this topic of how to speak up, even if you don't like the sound of your own voice. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, TaVona, and you have such a beautifully radiant voice as well. You're so clear when you speak, so a lot of this is going to really make a lot of sense to you. The incident that had happened, I think it was maybe about a month and a half, 2 months ago. It was on one of your fabulous talks. And one of the participants had said, well, I hate my voice. And she kind of got like kind of small and mousy when she said that. And I thought, well, you know what? I can help you with a couple of really, really simple pointers to help you become more comfortable with your voice. Or maybe sometimes maybe it is the voice that's the problem. And then we need to do a little voice coaching on that. So when we spoke offline, we spoke one-on-one, I had her introduce herself to me. She had a perfectly fine voice, right? So it wasn't the quality of the voice. It's not like she needed to do voice coaching, right? It was deeper than that. And this is what you speak to a lot, TaVona, is sometimes it is about the voice, and we can work on that. But what was really going on there?
So let me ask you this, just on that point, because you're right. I talk about the mindset and the mechanics of business, and there's both at play. So how does a person know if it's their voice and they need some vocal coaching or it's something else?
So there's a couple of things you can do. One of the tricks that I had told this woman to do, think of how you introduce yourself. Maybe 15 seconds, 30 seconds. Hi, I'm Liz Opoka. I'm a voice empowerment coach for the day here with TaVona, right? That's my 10-second elevator pitch right to you. And record it and play it back on your phone, or watch yourself say it in a mirror, right? And for the purposes of your question, I would actually say record it on your phone and listen to it. Is it really the voice that's problematic? Do you sound like Mickey Mouse? Do you sound like I Love Lucy? Or is there something else going on that you're not comfortable with? Is it the speech that you're using that you're not comfortable with? So there's all these little things that we can break down and kind of look at and analyze to figure out, what's going on here? What do you not like about the voice, right? So that's point number one. More often than not, I think what we'll find is it's not necessarily the voice, but it's, I don't really know. I don't sound smart. I don't feel convincing. It's all this hesitation. And then the voice gets small. Right? And then we start speaking from our larynx instead of from our bodies, right? The voice gets tinny. The voice gets weak.
Wait, I got to pause you on that one.
Okay.
Tell me, what is the difference between speaking from one's larynx versus their body?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of an example there. So right now I'm going to speak from my throat, I'm going to speak from my larynx, and I'm Liz Opoka, and I'm a voice empowerment coach here hanging out with TaVona today, right? Get the
Okay.
sense of that energy?
Yes.
Now I'm going to speak with my body. I actually have to sit up to do it. Hi, I'm Liz Opoka. I'm a voice empowerment coach today here hanging out with TaVona. Pretty much
I do.
said the same thing, but which one sounds more powerful,
Yeah.
right?
I felt the difference.
Feel the difference there. And I was speaking from my diaphragm, which required me to sit up, as opposed to, okay, let's sit in my little C-shaped curve with my shoulders hunched and my neck forward and la 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 la. If you're going to speak like that, you're not going to like the sound of your voice. You're going to not project it with confidence. And how do you think the other person receiving that, or whether it's a group of people or your boss or whomever, how are they going to receive that voice versus a confident voice?
Right.
Right?
So do you think it could come across as confident just in changing the body position,
Yes, that will
even
help.
if the person doesn't feel confident?
Well, that's another part of it. So by changing the body position, now we can project the voice with a little bit more confidence. But how do we get confidence into that voice? So I like to tell people in working with this kind of a concept, what's your 10-second elevator pitch? Like I just did. Hi, I'm Liz Opoka. I'm a voice empowerment coach for today here hanging out with TaVona, right? Something really simple like that. What do you want to say? How succinct can you make it? And then project it with confidence. So this is going to take practice for some people, right? What that involves, you got your phone, record yourself. Go ahead, record yourself, listen to it. More often than not, if you haven't had a career in radio or you're not used to listening to yourself speak a lot, it's going to feel like, no, make it stop. No, I hate the sound of my voice, right? But why should you hate the sound of your voice? It's you. It's part of you. It's how you communicate with the world, right? We want to embrace our voice, but this takes a little bit of work, right? So you want to record, listen to it over and over again. Really listen to it. And if it still bothers you, write down a couple of things as to what's not so great about it. And now go back and re-record and adjust and keep adjusting. Is the message not clear? Is how you're projecting not clear? How are you sitting? Maybe you need to stand, at least initially, to get comfortable with this. So these are uncomfortable exercises, much of like what you like to do with us, TaVona. They're uncomfortable exercises because they force us to kind of listen and to go deeper than just what's happening on the surface, right? But just that act of listening is going to help you start to fine tune, how do I get my message across, and get more comfortable with the sound of your own voice. As you get more comfortable, you can project with more confidence.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think some of the things that you said, I didn't even realize that I had done over the years, going to a performing arts school and being in theater and singing, like you have to use your diaphragm.
Mm-hmm.
So, So a couple things that we can do is one, to stand,
Yes.
open ourselves up, and then
Yes.
to replay and actually ask ourselves, what specifically about this don't we like? Is it the message? Is it the tonality? Is it something else?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So that's step number one. And anybody can do that with one of these little thingamajiggies, right? We've got a little voice memo on there. Anybody can do that. Another way of doing this, if this is something where you need to get in front of people, if you need to present something to a group that you're meeting, 4 or 5 people, your colleagues or a boss, higher ups in the hospital, anything of that nature, then you want to practice it on your phone, listening to it. And you also want to practice it in front of a mirror or record yourself on video. Now that gets a little bit more deep, right? That gets a little bit more deep. But when you can do that, practice this in front of a mirror and feel, bam, I got this. I feel comfortable. I'm confident with what I need to say. I'm confident with my 10-second elevator pitch. Then you can figure out everything else that follows from there, right? But we start with that because we all have heard, it's the first few minutes, so the first minute in a meeting that makes the biggest impression. So how do you make that impression? Who are you? How do you introduce yourself? And what is the quality of that energy that you're introducing yourself with? Is it positivity? Is it warmth? Is it friendly?
Yeah.
Is it strong? What is it? Right? All of this can be conveyed through the voice.
That is so fascinating. I mean, like you said, everything that you're saying has got my wheels turning now.
Oh, I know
there's
it.
certain things that, you just notice that you do or don't do. And you're like, well, why does this work? Sometimes I don't even stop to think about it, but I definitely remember, if you're familiar with AIDIT in the hospitals, it's a customer service acronym that I remember years ago they had us teach in the hospital. And A was acknowledge, I was introduce, D was duration, E was something, and E was expectation, and T was thank you. And so to me, it made such sense, but they put it into an acronym.
Yes.
And the introduction was so important to calm the patient down. It's like, hey, you come in there with warmth and authority and explain what's going to happen, just to really, it seems like to me, to set the tone for the session. And
Absolutely.
I think what you're saying is very similar when we go into meetings or sales calls or whatever. Like that first few minutes really do set the tone for the rest of the meeting.
You set the tone by letting people know who you are. Right? Who you are. The message a lot of times can be secondary. And this is something that I got really caught up in for many years, and I still get caught up in it, being a perfectionist. We get so focused on what we need to say and what we need to do. And let's do 10,000 slides, or let's get in all these facts and do all of our research so we come across really smart. Well, how does that look if you're kind of coming across like this? And let's see, I'm going to read from my piece of paper. And how does that sound? Not so good, right? So better to have less words, clearer message, delivery, in being really confident and getting that message out, right? Now, one of the things we talk about in radio, if you're on a sales call, if you're doing, whether it's phone work, you're one-on-one in this situation, and this is easy for me to do with you right now because the radio thing is you're talking to somebody like they're your friend. They're your friend, and you're hanging out, you're having a cup of coffee or green tea or whatever your poison is, and you're just hanging out, having a conversation, making it warm, making it friendly. So you still want to radiate from your body, not from your voice, right? But from your body, you want to radiate. You speak to that person like they're the only person in the room. And nice little trick, you want to add warmth. What's the best way to add warmth?
Smile.
You smile. Exactly. You smile while you're talking, right? The message is secondary. As we all say often, it's not what you say, it's how you make people feel, right? And that is so true. And it's especially true in radio. When I was in radio, not every day was great. I would have blunders. I would go in a bad mood sometimes. And what I found out after the fact was people loved it. And you want to know why? And this, you have this, TaVona, because it was real. It didn't feel fake.
Yeah.
So that's another component to this. You want to rehearse it, you want to get comfortable with it, but as in any art, you get so good at it, and then you can let go of the technique.
And then so how do you help people get past the perfectionist tendencies to just being real?
So again, it comes back to the basics. You record yourself, you practice this over and over again. How does it feel to you? Do you feel comfortable in it? Can you now introduce yourself to anyone on the street in this way? If you can do that, it doesn't mean that you have to go up and speak to everybody on the street like a crazy person, right?
Wait, you mean like we do in the South?
Well, I'm in New York City. We don't do that up here.
I know.
A little cultural difference there. But if you're doing that and you feel comfortable doing that, even imagining that you're feeling comfortable doing that, then you can let go of the technique and just let that inner self and radiance shine. Then the conversation becomes easy and you've already won that person over or have gotten that person interested from your very first 30 seconds.
So cool.
Mm-hmm. But the smiling is key.
Okay. Smiling is key. It's like, so I've done a lot of things in my life. That reminds me of cheerleading competitions where we put the Vaseline in between our gums, because when you smile all the time for a whole routine, it's like everything dries up and your lips, the
Right.
inside will
Okay.
stick
I
to
didn't
your
know
gums.
about that trick. Okay.
Yeah. I
All
think
right.
they do it in pageants too, but I never did that. But in
Uh-huh.
cheerleading, at least, Vaseline in between your gums, your
Okay.
lips.
Well, I've never known about the Vaseline hack. So I'm not advocating Vaseline, but if you feel like that's going to work for you to keep the big old smile going and keep friendly, why not?
Oh, that's too funny. You're taking me back now, Liz. Oh my
I
goodness.
know, right? This stuff is deep. It gets deep when you really start to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what is there anything else people can do? I know we talked about the hacks and the tricks and things, but is there anything else that comes to mind that you see in, especially in women, when it comes to speaking up and using their voice as a tool, but like just speaking up in general?
That's a big component. So going back to marketing 101, first of all, you want to know who you're speaking to in anything. So you do a lot of training for people who are looking to go from PT to being coaches. And it's a very different skill set in a sense from working in a clinic where we're constantly telling people what to do and telling them step by step what to do, as opposed to being a coach where it's pulling it and teasing it out of your client in a sense, getting them to realize what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's somewhat of a different skill set there. So now I just lost my train of thought. This happens. What was the question again?
So we're talking about like just in general, how do we get women in
Yes.
particular to speak up?
Yes. So don't do what I just did. Haha. Going back to projecting, right? Projecting that voice, feeling comfortable. One of the things that I talked about with a couple of people that we had this little beta session with was you get clear on the message, you get clear on how you want to say it, and then let it go and spend 15 seconds, 30 seconds before you're going to do it, before you go into a room, rather than, okay, I'm going to say this, and now your voice is getting smaller and smaller, and you're getting more and more nervous, and your upper traps are coming up by your ears, and all of that's starting to happen, which now puts you into your voice, and it makes you speak more fast, and it makes you sound more anxious. Taking a couple of breaths before you enter the room. Taking a couple of breaths before you pick up the phone to return that phone call. If you only have a few seconds, it only takes about 5-6 seconds to take a breath in and exhale, right? You like to talk about the exhale, TaVona. Exhale. And you can walk in and feel more grounded and centered. And if you're more grounded and centered, guess what? You're more in your body. You speak slower, right? You speak slower. As opposed to, let me get this really, really fast and let me get this all done so I can get my message across, so I can get this over with and get out of here and go down to the bar and have my gin and tonic, right? No. So you want to get deep in your body, speak slower, speak with confidence. And this takes practice. Not a lot of practice, but it does take practice, especially if it's not familiar to you. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I think when you bring up the fact of it taking practice, it makes me think about our colleagues in healthcare where it's like, no, I want to be perfect at it, like right now, or I don't want to do it at all.
Yeah. But
And that's just
as
not going to work.
as we all know, sometimes that's not an option. You have to show up, right? You have to show up. So if you're going to show up, being mindful, how do you want it? You have to be mindful about it initially. How do you want to show up to the room? You don't want to be there. You don't want to have anything to do with this. You want it done and over with, but you have to go through it. You use these steps. How do you introduce yourself? What's your key message that you're trying to bring across in a meeting? What's that key message? Are you clear about it in your own mind? What's that key message? Feeling it in your body, feeling it in your solar plexus, right? Down to the diaphragm, projecting it from there, speaking slowly and with authority, but warmth. That's how to do it. This takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of guidance, but anybody can do it. I grew up on Long Island. I don't know if that means anything to anybody listening, but I had a horrible Long Island accent. I started doing work in college radio, like so many people who got into radio. And they would tell me all the time, you got to get rid of the Long Island accent. I had no idea what they were talking about. I didn't hear it. And what did I have to do? I had to record myself. And back then it was recording myself on the Ampex tapes, a lot more work. It was awful. I hated it. I hated my voice so much. But my work was, nope, you're going to go back, re-record yourself over and over and over again until you become more comfortable with it. And I did. And I eventually had a career in radio out of it.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to be willing to do that work and be uncomfortable and listen to the parts and evaluate and do it again and suck and listen and evaluate and do it again. And now it's like, you can do this blindfolded.
It's a great skill to have. And it's so funny, as you said that, it's kind of you're talking to me about starting my own business. And it's like, well, yeah, I got the voice thing down. I can do that. But it really is a skill that pertains to anything that you want to do that's new, that's uncomfortable and unfamiliar. You don't have to do any of it. But then guess what? Nothing's going to happen, right?
True.
Not going to happen. So you have to be willing to get a little uncomfortable. And this is something you can do in your bedroom with your phone. We all have intimate personal relationships with our phone, right?
Probably too intimate and
Too
personal.
intimate and personal. I know I do. Can't speak for anybody else, but I definitely do. Start recording yourself. Start listening to yourself. And at first it's going to be, I don't want to hear it. But eventually, as you go back to it, it gets more easy. You start to make the changes in your voice so you get more comfortable. And guess what? As you get more comfortable and more confident with how this sounds, you can take it out into the world. Start with friends. Start with your spouse or partner. Talk to your dog or cat, right? They'll listen to you. Well, cats don't, but dogs do, right? Start there and then work your way bigger and bigger and bigger. Doesn't take a lot of time, but it does take focus and practice. Mm-hmm. And just like doing meditation, just like trying to start a business, it's not going to go anywhere unless you start making those first steps.
I think that is a great place to conclude. So thank you so much, Liz, for sharing your wisdom with us. And if you want to share, so you are our vocal empowerment coach for today, but what is the other thing that you're doing and you're working on now?
So the other idea that I had was working with women who have Hashimoto's disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is hypothyroid autoimmune condition, and how to work with this autoimmune condition to feel like you have control in your life, to not feel sick, to have better clarity in your mind, to have better energy to get through your day. And I want to specifically tailor that to healthcare professionals, because there's thousands, if not millions. It's that vast, millions of women with this particular diagnosis, and it affects people in many, many different ways. So tailoring it particularly to healthcare professionals, because I'm a healthcare professional, and there's particular challenges that a lot of us have. Um, Even if some healthcare professionals have a 9 to 5 job, we all know we take our work home with us. We all know we wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning about, oh my God, I forgot to tell such and such a patient about blah, blah, blah. Those particular challenges. How do we deal with that and the stresses in healthcare, especially now with COVID-19, and not let it get to your autoimmune system to start to spiral you out of control?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank
And
you.
you are most welcome. And I'm excited to see you soar in the group and help everyone with all the things.
I would love to, so come on board.
All right.
Thanks again so much. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, TaVona, for this opportunity. I always love speaking with you. I love meeting all the people that you work with, because everyone's just so wonderful and positive and open and wanting to do amazing things. And you're really a great mentor to so many of us.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
we might not always be on every call, but we love what you do and we're watching you. I know I am.
Absolutely. Everything happens when it's supposed to.
Yes. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Okay.
Thank you. Bye, Facebook world.